Today on Indie Attack with me, Kelson, and
you, Woody.
And you are Woody, and I am Kelson, and you are Woody. We are playing more Locomalito, because we're Loco. Formalito. And this is, yikes, this is comedy, and also we are playing Hydorah. Now, Hydorah is Gradius. It is a wonderful, wonderful tribute to a genre that I am also in love with. Much like Castle Maldita, I am a owner of the original cartridge of which this is based on, essentially, and and I cherish it.
Yeah, it's a side-scrolling shmup.
Mm-hmm. Side-scrolling shmup in space, space-themed.
Yeah, you shoot guys in space. You collect power-ups from shooting them in space, and you collect points from shooting them in space.
And you
eventually shoot a bigger guy in space.
Yes, exactly. A guy who, much like the first boss in Gradius 3, has an eye and has some tentacles, and you have to just get his pattern. I mean,
there's nothing more video gamey than fighting a giant eyeball.
Exactly, and hitting him right in that middle spot. Oh boy. And also nothing more side-scrolling space shmup than breaking down boulders and into smaller boulders and then smaller boulders yet.
Yes.
That is definitely happening here. And also getting rockets that fall from your ship just like endlessly somehow, as an upgrade.
And you get your little satellites that'll shoot for you and orbit around you and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Classic, familiar stuff, but I think done really well.
So it's really solid.
Mm-hmm.
This one, I think, compared to some of the other stuff, it's maybe not as solid plus innovative. Because a lot of the other Locomalito games we are doing are they're solid copies or stuff, or copies, homages, pastiches, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
But then they're also really solid in their own right. And this is a really solid game, but
it doesn't have an identity. It's the identity.
Yeah, it doesn't have enough of its own identity compared to some of the other stuff. Because, Abaye de Mortes, has its own identity that's really, really cool. It's really,
there's
really
a
fun.
Story there.
And this just doesn't have that.
You know what? I think I'm just a total mark, so I'm just positive, but I completely agree with you. I think also Castilla Maldita also just felt unique in its own way, and I think this one did kind of feel like much more of just a
little more standard,
a little bit of it's like you're tracing, you know what I mean? I'm serious, and it's just because my brain is literally programmed in the Gradius 3 on Super Nintendo, but literally some of the movement, the way the level starts, where the 5 ships come up on the top half of the screen, literally that's how that game starts, and it's just, there are some things that are, you would have maybe...
There's some things that happen because it's good design.
Yes.
So different designers come to the same design conclusions.
Absolutely.
But you still need to make a point of making it your own thing.
Yeah, you don't want to fall you don't want to make it be too precious to the source material. You do have to infuse it with your own take. And I think perhaps this one, is much more of a clone than some of the other ones. Yes. I still think it's impeccable.
Yeah, it's really well made.
Absolutely.
And there's no problem. In terms of that, it plays well, it's made well, and all of that, but it's just not as, doesn't have as much of an identity as the other games we played, I think.
It doesn't have that hook. Unlike some of the other games, I feel like you can just play the original, and it's literally this game, you know, and some of the other ones I would say, no, they do advance on the concept more.
And I think part of that, too, is the genre of shmups don't really have level design, they have enemy patterns.
Right.
And I think, too, part of this is level design. Shmups don't really have level design. They have enemy patterns.
Yeah, sequences.
And with a game like Castilla, or Maldita Castilla.
Let's just call it...
It's hard to pronounce. Castildo Matilda.
We're white guys, okay?
Yeah, Castildo Matilda.
Right.
Or, let's say, Abaye de Mortes. The level design is important, though, to making them interesting, because you have the level design, and that's kind of where the fun comes from, is figuring out all these little puzzles and stuff.
Yes.
But with the shmup, you don't have that to kind of fall back on and help to make it seem more interesting and to stand out more.
Yeah, because you're just floating in space and moving forward constantly. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So it's not as, there's a reduced layer of complexity there. And I think that's kind of where this game's
just inherently.
Right. So, it's really well made, but... It's not as much of a recommendation as the other stuff. I think you'd have to be a pretty big Gradius fan to like get more out of this than you would have just playing Gradius.
Right. Yes, and that's definitely a fair point. And I would say, I liked it quite a bit, but I definitely think all your points are super fair. And like, of course, we're talking about a lot of his games, so we're very much comparing and contrasting.
Yes.
So keep that in mind. But yeah, Hydorah.